correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm Steve.
And I'm Steve.
And we're going to talk about RPG stuff. But before we do that, we want to tell you about another podcast that we want to welcome to the D20 Radio Network. They are... Well, as we're recording this, I think they announced them earlier this week, but I think we're this will air in 2 weeks. So anyway, they're fairly new to the network. We haven't shouted them out before, and that's a podcast called I Should Roll.
Absolutely.
Now, what this is, it's, I've checked it out a little bit, and this is where I'm going to show my hibernation from video gaming. I have absolutely no context about anything Mass Effect other than knowing that a lot of people really love it. But I Should Roll is an actual play podcast set in the Mass Effect universe. And they actually, they have 2 campaigns going currently. One is something about the Valkyrie and the other is Dangerous something or other. I don't remember their names because I just started listening to them last night. And I can say this. Even though I know nothing about Mass Effect, it is a very entertaining podcast to listen to. They are very clearly big Mass Effect fans. And like I said, it's really entertaining. Seem to be very good voice actors or, role players, etc. The GM is really cool, seems to be. Her name's Kaya, yeah. And it's actually in a system of their own design, which, according to one of their little, they did a bunch of, intro episodes, kind of trailer-type things, and it's a custom system is the simplest way to put it. I said they took some from D&D, some from, Blades in the Dark. So, I don't know. What I've listened to them, the system really hasn't come into play. I haven't gotten any combat or anything like that yet, so... I don't know, but it's very entertaining. The production levels seem really good.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, based on, because video games, that they're using some voice modulation effects that are very true to the way certain species or whatever talked in the games. So,
yeah, that's really neat. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think it's very passionately produced, and they seem to be very much in the spirit, which to me is going to make for entertaining listening. So check out I Should Roll. There'll be links in the show notes. I know they appear to be on pretty much all your podcatchers. I know they also have their podcast on YouTube, much like we do, where the audio feed populates
to our YouTube. Yeah, that's a new thing for us. That's kind of cool.
Yes, I finally figured out and set all the stuff up so that you can listen to us on YouTube. All it is a static image, but if that's how you consume things, it's there. And it's just search Me and Steve RPG, I think is the name of the channel. Or there's links in the notes and all that fun stuff.
Right, absolutely. Well, you had our topic for tonight. You had been watching a show and sort of wanted to talk around this idea.
Yeah, so I found this show and I just randomly stumbled across it on Hulu looking for something to watch. And it's a cop drama. Okay, so nothing shocking there, right? There's 1,000,003 of them. Well, this one, though, is a little different because it's Canadian production. So it's fully set in Canada from what I understand. Other than the lead, pretty much the entire cast is Canadian, all the production, everything. And, they play off some of the Canadian, wilds, and it's set somewhere, I don't know, I guess a few hours north of Toronto. A place called Algonquin Bay, but that's kind of irrelevant, and I would imagine a fictional location. Anyway. But they did something... And I would, by the way, recommend the show to anyone who likes kind of cop drama type shows. Seems very good. And it's also not a huge investment. There's 4 seasons of it. There's 6 episodes a season. And each season kind of centers around a central case. But anyway, they did something in the first season that I thought was oh, hey, that might be a useful thing to do in a game, or a useful technique to like kind of have in your back pocket. Because, sometimes, you have that little side thing that's supposed to be just filler, and the players just like get focused on it and keep following it. We've all had that happen. We've all done that, right? Like,
Yeah.
people do that. So, to not spoiler anything too much, I'm not going to go into like details here. But as the show opens, your main character, this detective, is getting a new partner, but he's also tracking down this missing persons case that's become a murder and evolves into kind of a serial killer type thing, sort of. Anyway, but he gets this new partner, and he's like, "Well, here, you need to help me the most. You can clear all this other stuff I've been working on. I got this string of burglaries." So what this ends up happening is they get a suspect in these burglary cases, and they think that their suspect has been staking out the local big box store and then seeing who buys, bigger ticket items, and then following them home and then burglarizing the house, a few days later. But what they did that I thought was kind of brilliant, and the thing that I think we could use in RPGs is, so they've established that this killer they're after is essentially a serial killer, and so they're trying to locate them. Well, the killer goes to the store and buys I don't remember what, like a VCR or new TV or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Burglar breaks into the serial killer's house,
Mm-hmm.
and things happen.
That's a funny way of doing that.
But you get where I see this, how this could apply to RPGs, and like essentially crossing your streams in a way that really, like, you can just throw that in, right?
Well, yeah, you can absolutely do something. Oh, I love that. I love doing that type of thing, where it's like, oh, by the way, this that you're after is also part of this bigger thing.
Right. But like, the thing that I think struck me about it was because, oh yes, we all want these massive interconnected plot lines.
Right.
This was completely unrelated until it was completely related.
Completely related. It's so that's such a real way of doing that. I hate to say that, but that's such a real life way of handling that situation, where you're like, how do I tie these two plot lines together? Oh yeah, the burglar dude just breaks into the serial killer's house. Like, that's a legitimate way to handle that situation. And I love that. That's a great way to play. You could easily do that with your players. Man, that's funny. That is funny.
Like,
I've done sort of that, where like my players have gone after, small time criminals that turned out to be bigger time criminals than they seemed.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never done it in that particular way.
Yeah, well, like I said, and this whole series to me is, a lot of it is delightfully twisted, is my way of maybe putting it, but like,
Right. Yeah.
it actually, I mean, it gets pretty dark. But like I said, I think it's called Cardinal, and like I said, I
Yeah.
found it on Hulu. But like I said, it just got me thinking about, man, if you intentionally cross the streams, so to speak, but you can do it in ways like they did, where, so to speak, you don't have to have the big massive plan, right? Like, and obviously when that happened, the burglary case thing pretty much was solved.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So like, they neatly tied a bow on this element, and we're back to the main thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's wild. And neatly tying a bow onto storylines is something that I definitely appreciate doing as a GM. I like to tie my storylines up, and be like, okay, this one, we're moving on from this one, because I find myself, it is a creative, not wanting to deal with things too much. You know what I mean? Like, for too long, I should say. I don't. When storylines drag out forever, I'm like, this is boring.
But I wonder, is maybe, and that's maybe even the better place to go with this, as opposed to, crossing the streams. Is it how to neatly tie the bow quickly too, like something like
I
that?
think so. I mean, and that's basically what they're doing in that situation. They're tying up a loose end, and it's really, tying up loose ends in your RPG story can really make an impact. It can really make an impact on your players because your players feel a sense of accomplishment. As a player, I always feel a sense of accomplishment when a storyline wraps up. And
Right.
so leaving too many loose ends means that you leave a lot open to like, oh, well, there's so much that we could have gone back and done. Like, especially if you're telling an overarching story and you just wrap it up and don't take the time to tie up your loose ends, you could really feel like, oh man, we missed out on all of this, over here.
Yeah. But like I felt like in that case, in the case of this show too, the other thing it did was it also brought the main story a little more into focus for the investigators.
Right. And that's a good way. It's a good way to do exactly that as well, is to, for your players, having a bunch of side content that they can go and do. And I say side content, I mean, not main plotline stories. And then coalescing all of those into the main plotline does help get everybody back invested on what your main story is.
Right.
And it gets all your players reinvested in that, and it helps them feel, like I said, that sense of accomplishment because they've done something that is now leading them down a path that is, maybe what I'll call a plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too though. Okay. Like it's tying up the loose ends, it's advancing the main story, but it also adds color,
It adds
right?
color,
Because
it adds
it
complexity to your world. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like if you think about it, in this city, whatever, well, there's going to be more than one case ongoing in the cops world, just like there's going to be more going on in the city or the whatever your setting is for your players than the one thing they're working on. And like I think you can use having those multiple things going on. Excuse me. I think you can use having those multiple things going on to, in a sense, build some. It adds depth, it adds realism, but the way they kind of tied this all together, and like I said, I would this specific thing I'm talking about all happened in season 1 of this show.
Right.
Um, but like it it adds more depth to the world because you've got more going on, but I just thought the way they tied it around was like
Oh yeah,
adds
that's
depth,
brilliant.
but
It's
now it's done and it's no longer a distraction.
right. I you know, adding depth to your world, you can do a lot of things. Some people do very detailed descriptions of areas, some people do. I find the best way to add depth to your world, in my opinion, and for my GMing style, is to let my players add that depth. I find myself going, okay, um, here's our main storyline. You guys are invested in this. But in the meantime, what do you want to be doing when we're not, like, there's this sword that's been missing for a millennia. Your job is to go find it. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but we're here for 3 more days. So what are you doing in the meantime to pass the time? And my players will be like, oh, well, I'm looking for this, or oh, I'm looking for that. And based on what they're looking for, I can pretty much easily, come up with some kind of story to tie in and make them feel like they had a little adventure while they were out, shopping or whatever.
Mhm.
And being able to use that to your players back into the situation and get them reinvested in what's going on, because it builds complexity to the world. The world feels real when your players can step outside of the story that you're telling and explore and do their own thing, even though you're, in control of what happens. They're still doing their own thing. They're still
Mhm.
feeling like they have some agency, like they have, free will over this story that's unfolding. And they should. They should, because I mean, at the end of the day, I feel that tabletop RPGs are a collaborative experience. If you want to
Absolutely.
play something by yourself, that's great. There are solo RPGs, but if you're playing with more than one person or you're playing with more than yourself, then it needs to be a collaborative experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the thought though of kind of just well, like I said, the execution of that wrapping the story into the main, and they actually did another thing similar to that in the 3rd season in a way. but it was kind of a side plot and this thing that happened that you thought was just, like color and flavor. And then it was like this weird thing that happened that actually tied into what was kind of a side story, but wrapped that up really nicely. Like, I feel like the storytelling in this show can kind of just give you some inspiration for maybe ways to wrap things together. You know, like I don't know how to explain it without just go watch the damn show and you'll understand
Yeah,
some of what
no,
I mean.
it it sounds like they have a really, it sounds like whoever's writing for that show, or the team of writers they have for that show, has a really interesting idea of how to tie and make stories realistic, or make interesting stories to tell. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. I haven't been watching much television recently just due to time constraints, but
Oh, no, I
I'll
get that completely. Yeah, but
adding
like I said,
that to the list of things.
well, the thing I liked about it too is it's not a big investment even to watch the whole series. I mean, you're looking at
Right. Yeah, it's
4
you
6
s-
episode seasons, and I think they're
right. All of
45 minutes apiece.
24 episodes, or 20,
Yeah.
20, yeah,
So
24.
but the storytelling to me, and again, this is more, inspiration, like we talk about stealing inspiration and whatnot. But like, I think sometimes your inspiration doesn't have to be the story itself. Sometimes it can be the framework, the structure, the way they tell the story.
Right.
Like when I talked with GM Brev, and I know you weren't here for that, but he was talking about how many times, for your scenes, come in late, leave a little bit early. He said, because if you think about this in film, how often do you come in a sentence or two into the conversation and leave before the conversation is completely resolved?
Right, exactly. Yeah, doing that, I mean, entering, as someone's having a conversation, walking in, especially like, yeah, I don't know. There are tricks, and stealing from television, stealing from movies, watching. You know what show I really love? I
Hmm.
really love old ER with George Clooney.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the 90s. I really love some ER.
See, my wife really likes that series.
Yeah, it's a really good show. And it's a really good show to steal inspiration for how to do character talking moments.
Okay.
People pass in and out of scenes. Um, there's expository dialogue delivered in a casual way, even though it's a lot of times, they're playing it up for television. But I think
Hmm.
in a tabletop RPG sense, if you were to steal how they play up some of their expository dialogue, how they talk about, patients and situations and things like that, but if you were to change the ideas around, you're able to steal that and work with it. It's like watching any of the like presidential drama shows,
Hmm.
or I used to love Jag. You ever watch Jag?
I've seen a few times. I much
Yeah,
prefer its spin-off Child, but
NCIS.
yes.
Yeah. I like NCIS. I don't know. I like the more procedural drama. Like I don't know. I'm
But
not a huge NCIS fan, but
the thing about NCIS, as much as I enjoyed watching it, it was a very formatted story type thing.
yeah,
And I think, well, there's some value in that, and you can certainly get inspiration maybe for, oh, hey, I could do a storyline that's kind of like this thing they did and turn it around, whatever. I don't know. I think for me, and this is where I think this Canadian show, like because it's Canadian production, right? And not that
right.
there's anything special in the water or the moose milk or
No,
whatever it is in Canadians, right? And I joke, right? But it is there's a different feel
it's a
to it.
different take to the cop drama type thing.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's not the same, big US production houses. It's not
right.
another Dick Wolf show.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Just to go off on a mini rant, you know what show really oozes with like interesting visuals? CSI. The old, like,
Oh,
first
the
couple
original
seasons
one?
of CSI. Yeah. Visually, that show is very interesting.
I actually really enjoyed, especially the early seasons of that. That was
Yeah.
a good show.
It's fun. And you know what? I use a lot of the I use that to inspire a lot of investigative drama stories that I work on.
Mm-hmm.
When I have storylines, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to CSI and see how they would have handled this on there. I'm going to think about how these characters would do it. I'm going to think about how the scenes would look, right? Like,
No, that's actually, yeah. Like, I don't know what we're going to call this now, but it's more like
I don't know,
stealing technique.
stealing techniques. I mean, it's the truth. That's what we need to be doing.
Well,
Not
right.
need to, but
But I think the other thing, well, in a sense, we don't need to, but it helps. And I think maybe the whole drive here is broadening your theft pool.
right.
You know what I
Broaden
mean?
your
Like,
theft pool. That sounds like that sounds like a term that you would find in an RPG. It sounds like you're playing a game that has a what do you call that where you roll multiple dice? A
a
dice
dice
pool
pool.
mechanic, right? And you're like reading through the rule book and you get to this section it's like chapter 5, broaden your theft pool. Roll X amount of D6s to broaden your theft pool.
Right. But like, by that, I mean, like, you know, don't like,
Step out of step out of your comfort zone in a way. Watch something that you wouldn't normally watch.
right. And I think that's valuable in so many things. Like, look, you know me, Steve. I like to tinker and think about building things, even though I don't get nearly the amount of time to build and make things that I would like to.
Yeah.
But what I've found, as much as it's great to watch masters of a discipline,
Oh yeah, I love watching people that have no idea what they're doing.
but what I
That
actually
too.
like more in some ways
Okay.
are those guys or gals, or we'll just call them people, those creators who. So, guy that I'll point to, he was on TV for a while. The show was called, oh dang, I can't remember the now. The guy's name is Ian Roussel. He had a
Okay.
show that was on Motor Trend and Velocity for a while.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And he builds cars, but he is a welder slash artist, is how he would kind of describe himself.
Oh,
And so
okay.
a lot of what he builds are Full Custom Garage was the name of the show.
That's it. Yep, that's what it is. I was just getting there.
But if you watch him, and now he does stuff on YouTube, I think the name of the channel is Full Custom Ian.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you watch especially his YouTube stuff, where it's much less produced, obviously, you really understand how often he's going, I have this concept, and in a sense, he's building functional art, but he's doing it by taking this concept and this concept and this concept and putting them all together. Or another guy that I've learned a lot in this kind of manner from, and this guy is a little bit different. There's a guy named Ben Crow, who is the owner, lead builder for this guitar company out of England called Crimson Guitars.
Right.
And he's a very, very good luthier. Like I believe he trained in like violin making and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
as he's come along, he has tried to broaden his skill set and studied stuff like watchmaking, and so he takes techniques from all these other disciplines and applies them to making guitars. And a lot of the guitars he builds are they're works of art in their own way, not just as guitars. And he's done a couple that are just like, oh my god, over the top. And while for me, I don't necessarily see that as value in the instrument. I appreciate it from the concept of this is a guy trying to learn and explore alternate ways that he can do the same thing.
Yeah. No, I know that's cool. That
And
is freaking cool.
so that's where like I'm kind of at, right? Like, watch different stuff, read different books, expand your theft pool, expand the thing you're borrowing techniques and inspiration from, and put it all in the pot and stir it around. And I think it's just going to, sure, you're going to pull a dud out every now and then. It happens to all of us. But I don't know, like having more to draw from is never a bad thing, I don't think.
Try something. Try something. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
See, here's something. I'm just going to say it this way. If you try and fail, you have still learned what doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know what not to do.
I mean, the worst that can happen is something doesn't land the way you wanted it to, and your players didn't necessarily react the way you expected them to do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you just move on. And we just go, okay, well, I'm sorry that didn't work out the way I planned it to, but or your players had a great time and they'll have no idea that didn't work out the way you wanted it to.
Right? I was going to say, you may have been going for chocolate lava cake and turned out brownies, but your players got really cool brownies.
Yeah, your players really enjoyed those brownies. I mean,
So I guess I don't know. I guess my whole point is like I think this show to me, Cardinal opened up thoughts on connecting stories that really aren't connected, but that it can be really easy to do this sometimes because it just happened.
right,
And
exactly. It just happened to happen that way.
yeah,
Craziness. Well, let me ask this. Are there any more thoughts on this?
I don't think so. I mean, we kind of tied it up faster than I expected to, but it's also more of a go look at this example.
Yeah. Little short episode this week, but nobody's complaining about that. It's
Yeah.
summertime.
Yeah, well, that's true. And we still have other things to do, so
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
we still got to talk about Game of the Week.
Woo, game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
All right, so I have a game.
Okay.
Mine is called I should have done this ahead of time, and why didn't I
That's
copy
a
this
good
link
one.
and paste
I
it into
play that
here?
one all the time.
You play that one all the time? Why didn't
Yeah.
why didn't I do this ahead of time? Yeah.
Right?
Mine is called Regen.
Okay.
It is system agnostic. From what I was seeing, it's system agnostic. Yeah, any system agnostic, unique to other system. It's a narrative role-playing game. I'll just read this straight from their page. It's a narrative role-playing game set in the dystopian rainy city where identity, memory, and humanity are slowly eroding. You play as broken souls trying to survive in that world that forgets where every memory has a place and truth hides a wound. It seems really cool, really noir, very cyberpunk in a way. It is free. This is a beta version of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it looks cool. I like the idea of memories. Like, I like the idea of playing with that.
It's in the cart.
Yeah, I mean, for free. How could you not? For nothing. But I just like that idea. I like the idea. It's almost implied that the rain is what's causing this erosion. I like that idea. I don't know. It's cool, man. It's kind of neat.
It also appears to be when you go to download it, there's apparently it looks, I'm guessing, an Italian translation.
Oh, very cool too.
Or maybe it was originally in Italian and I don't know. I didn't
possibly?
download it. It says IPA, so I'm guessing that means Italian.
Okay. Is the original one English? I didn't see anywhere where it said it wasn't.
No, there's two separate downloads. There's beta-ITA and beta-ENG or whatever.
The only thing I will say, and I noticed this on the drive-through page, according to drive-through, this contains AI-generated content. I don't know what AI-generated content it has. Something to be aware of. I just noticed it on the drive-through page, but make your own decisions. It seems like a cool idea. I hope this isn't, AI written or something crazy, but
I mean, it could just be artwork that they put on the beta because they wanted something there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm sort of hoping it is. But everybody makes their own decisions.
Yeah, AI is AI, but you're not actually putting money in their pocket, so
yeah, it doesn't cost anything, so worth a shot.
Yeah. All right, so that's yours, right? Regen?
Correct. Regen. Yep.
So I am going to shout out something that probably a lot of our listeners are aware of, but I really should probably buy this and read it. And that is from
Outgunned.
Sly. No, well, there's that, but Sly Flourish, um, and like I said, probably a lot of our
Return of the
listeners.
Lazy Dungeon Master. I've looked at
Yes,
this.
I mean, because let's be honest, lazy, time crunched, whatever, right? It's all kind of streets of the same city, and
Right.
by all accounts, the original version was excellent. This is what he came out with after 5 years of refinement.
Hmm.
PDF, which comes in multiple formats, I don't know what ones, is only $8.
Yeah.
Now it is geared toward fantasy gaming, but
Huh.
I don't see why you can't take a lot of the techniques and apply them to any other type of gaming. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Right. Exactly. I don't see a reason why.
Yeah. So I mean, for $8, I think it's probably something worth checking out. Like I said, I do know, I remember not so much recently, but a few years back, hearing a lot of talk out of how much use people got out of, be it Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master or, other creations from, I believe the guy's name is Mike Shea. But I think that's going to be my pick this week just because something. And I actually am going to caveat this all, though, with I wanted to kind of add a thing to Game of the Week here.
Okay.
And that's I started watching something else this week, actually on the recommendation of a coworker. And this is kind of half watching, right? Because I'm working, but it's kind of noise and looking at things a little bit while I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right. Is it the new
And
season of Love, Death, and Robots?
no, it's a show that's on Amazon.
Okay.
Apparently, it's only one season. They apparently have announced that they aren't going to do more. Have you seen any of The Bondsman?
I have started watching The Bondsman. I don't want to talk about The Bondsman with you, but I will say that show is fantastic.
Is it just me, or would that not be a hysterical RPG concept?
It would be a fantastic RPG concept. That's partially why I started watching it.
Now, here's my question. Just quick thoughts off the top of your head, what do you use for it?
Off the top of my head, I'm running that and maybe like Blades in the Dark.
Okay. That could probably work. I was actually thinking Savage Worlds.
Savage Worlds would work.
Because it's kind of punchy and comedic, a little bit pulpy in a way. I feel like Blades in the Savage Worlds might do it. I don't know if there's an already existing supplement out there. Maybe, if any of our listeners know of something, they could let us know, email, Discord, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I just think that is a fun concept to mine.
Oh, it really is. It's a really cool show. And it's
Uh,
goofy in all the right ways.
So I have a pitch for you without going into discussing this
Okay.
a great deal, because you said you don't want to.
Right.
And I know they're not going to do it. But what if you took that and made it a series where each season was a different bondsman?
I would love an anthology series like that.
Because who else came to my mind to me that I think could play a bondsman excellently?
Who?
I think his name's Vinnie Jones.
Oh my goodness, yes. Vinnie Jones would be a fantastic bondsman.
That played Sphinx in Gone in
Yes,
60
yes,
Seconds.
yes. Vinnie Jones is a fantastic actor. He is hilarious. Yeah, he could be a great bondsman. I could easily see them casting anyone like him, or good grief, there's all kinds of people you could cast as them. I hope it gets another season. It's new, like fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't put it past that there could be another season made of it. I just don't know that it would be a different lead actor.
My coworker said that he had read that they had said they weren't going to make any more.
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is, like I said, it's fairly new. So, but yeah, what have I been watching? I haven't really been watching much of anything. Nothing that I can really recommend, at least. Oh, I watched that Mickey 17. It's pretty good. Oh, I do know of something I can recommend to you. That new Captain America movie is actually pretty all right.
What's this one called?
Brave New World.
Okay.
It's the one with Anthony Mackie and where he's Captain America instead of Falcon.
Okay.
And Harrison Ford is the president.
Okay.
Watch the trailers if you haven't seen the trailers for it, because they do straight up spoil the plot of that movie.
Okay, so you're saying don't watch the trailers.
Yep. Go into it, turn it on, watch it. You'll have a great time. If you watch the trailers, you're not going to have a bad time, but you're going to be like, man, I really wish that wouldn't have been spoiled for me.
Fair enough.
It's got Tim Blake Nelson in it, which was a fantastic surprise. He's always good to see in things. And I walked away from that movie actually pleasantly surprised because I didn't intend on watching it. It showed up on Disney Plus. I was like, I'll throw it on, see how it is. And I had a great time. I really honestly did. It's got good intrigue. It's got a good storyline. The pacing is really well done. It's a really entertaining movie. And I was honestly surprised that I walked away from a Captain America movie going, this was actually really good. I would watch more of this.
Cool.
Because I wasn't a huge fan of that Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Just not my cup of tea. But yeah, it was really fun. Really fun.
Cool.
Yeah, with all that being said, as always, links to everything are in the show notes. YouTube now, you can find us on Discord. As always, Patreon. And we want to thank everyone for listening along today and remind you to be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all. And go broaden your theft pool.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.